Does this skin setup seem familiar to you? Maybe you recognize it from a Boomy stream, a Darkle stream, or even Kozlix's entire video featuring him. And the list goes on. There are infinite encounters pro players and content creators have had with this player throughout the many years of Brawlhalla. And in all fairness, that can be said about a lot of people, but there is something very different about this player. This is Brawlhalla's strangest player, or better known as Connor88. I suppose the best place to start is when Connor started. Now, I can't tell for certain when the first time he played Brawlhalla was, but based off screenshots and video records, I'd say he started playing Brawlhalla in early 2017. And he was instantly a ranked grinder, racking up 600 wins without even unlocking half the character roster, which is something you almost never see. But this would spark the flame to his stardom inside the Brawlhalla community. But as with everything, it took a lot of time, as it wasn't until around 2019 that he would reach the rank required to put his plan into action and honestly terrorize the top players. See, Connor had a very interesting playstyle, and a very hated one for that matter. He was the king of the passive playstyle, to the point where he would just stand somewhere on stage and wait for his opponents to approach. And if they didn't, the game would look something like this. And as you can imagine, that got a lot of people upset. But why do people hate passive players so much? And I personally think it's because in Brawlhalla, a passive playstyle leads to a lack of engagements, which is just extremely boring. Think of it like someone camping in a Call of Duty lobby. It's never a good idea to push them, but if you don't, the game lacks substance. But inevitably leads to the person camping having a massive advantage, and Connor knew and abused this as an easy way to get under everyone's skin, which was his whole entire goal. But I won't lie, this kind of backfired on him, because at this point people started embracing him. They knew exactly what he was going to do, so it wasn't an unpleasant surprise anymore. Instead, it became kind of like a friendly encounter. Granted, he was still very annoying, just it didn't catch people off guard anymore, so he basically became the troll of the community. There would be banter back and forth, but nothing too serious, and at this point, he was a legend in the community. He did collabs with big creators, people called him the GOAT for exposing other passive players, and even casters acknowledged him during professional tournaments. But this was simply his glory days, as there was a much darker side to Connor that everyone was about to see. Toxicity was obviously no stranger to Connor, but let me take you guys back in time, specifically back when post-game chat was still a feature. And for all of you guys that don't know, way before we had post-game emoticons, we were actually able to chat to our opponents after every game, which of course caused a lot of toxicity. I think I was told to kill myself at least 50 times because of that feature, but anyways, Connor was no exception. After every win, he had a signature message that he would send, and I think I should let him tell you guys what that was.
Pommeled. Stop the suck. Nothing but the suck. All the suck. Too much suck. I have it encoded in my brain. Like I could say it.
In the whole grand scheme of things, this wasn't that malicious, more obnoxious than anything. But this, in my opinion, was the straw that broke the camel's back, because this led to Connor getting a chat ban, which sent him into a spiral of hate towards the game and more importantly, the developers. Connor's behavior following his chat ban was honestly pretty disgusting, but even before his chat ban, his behavior was outright wrong. For starters, you may have noticed his clan tag alone would have been enough in my opinion to just straight out ban him. Even if this was a joke, it's a really bad one at the expense of people's literal lives, which isn't something you should mess with. But he seems to think hurting people is some hilarious joke because he even messaged Boomy after a game stating that he would beat him at LAN. But do take this with a grain of salt, as he could have simply meant beating him in game, but due to his past actions, I wouldn't be surprised. But again, this is total speculation, unlike the vast records of him threatening people, using derogatory language, and wishing terrible things on people. And of course, this was all done through Twitter. Connor made his Twitter account on March of 2019, around the time he got his first chat ban, which I can only imagine was to voice his toxicity on a different platform. He made his first tweet on the 24th, which would prove my hypothesis when he tweeted out #I would kill the devs. Going to these lengths to not only express your hatred in-game, but also taking to social media solidifies my theory that this isn't just an in-game persona, but a genuine feeling he felt the need to share with other people, which is extremely concerning. But it would only get worse, as on the same day he would release this tweet, which has so much wrong with it I'd rather not recite it. It's strange enough to me that someone would even have these thoughts in their head in the first place, but putting them out to the public shows a total disconnect. And yeah, maybe I'm totally overanalyzing this whole situation, but to shrug this all off as jokes seems extremely ignorant. And his constant hate towards Brawlhalla while still playing it is just as strange. On March 25th, he would go on to release his next string of tweets where he outright wishes everyone supporting him inevitable poverty and suffering, which I'm sure most took as a joke considering the personality he built his fan base off of, but it gets to a point where all these incidents stacked on top of each other becomes hard not to ignore as they get increasingly more severe. As further evidence to this point, just hours later he would state, "People that play passive deserve the lethal injection." A little bit of friendly fire there, I won't lie, but the repetitiveness of Connor's actions make me wonder if there's some truth behind his wishes. And for now, that's the end of Connor's Twitter rampage. Personally, the most disgusting part of this whole situation is the constant encouragement he got from the community. I understand that he's a massive troll and I'm sure he meant no harm, but at the same time, a line needs to be drawn. Because if not, it will only enable this kind of behavior in the future for not only Connor, but also any bystanders. Inevitably, the line was eventually drawn as Connor's Brawlhalla account got banned, but even after that, he tried making a new account called Unbanned My Main Account. But of course, still spreading the same toxicity throughout every game, which showed his inability to change his ways. Obviously, his attempts to get unbanned never worked and eventually led to the disappearance of Connor altogether. But that's not where it ends. You see, while doing research for this video, I found two extremely funny clips. 7 years ago, a user named Rist Gaming uploaded two videos titled Connor88 Cheating and Connor88 Cheating 2, which are two short clips of Connor cheating on Minecraft, which is honestly the cherry on top of this whole entire video. Obviously there's a chance this is just some random guy, but considering the spelling is exactly the same, I'm 99% sure this is the one and only Connor. But regardless, this is pretty baseless, besides the fact that if it is him, it shows his toxic behaviors date all the way back to his Minecraft days. And have actually carried all the way to the present, as he now moved on to playing Dead by Daylight and getting called a tunneler, which is basically a player whose entire goal is to target one player specifically to make them angry, exactly like his whole shtick in Brawlhalla. Some things never change. Regardless of all my speculations, Connor's uprise within the Brawlhalla community was strange, to say the very least. Gaining popularity through toxicity isn't anything new, but then getting those same people to rally with and praise you is something extremely rare to see, especially when making your malicious intent very clear from the start. But whether you love him or hate him, you can't deny that Connor88 is one of the strangest players Brawlhalla has ever seen.